I used to think that my house was haunted, but the truth that I uncovered was way, way worse. I was 8 years old when I last saw my mother. We lived in a somewhat big house out in the countryside, a decent drive from the nearest towns and cities. One night, I heard cries and screams coming from the walls. I yelled for help from my mom, but the voices, she couldn't hear them. She banged on the walls and ordered the voices to stop talking to me and to let me sleep, and they did as she asked, until 3 nights later. I got in the shower and turned on the water. Blood. Boiling hot blood spit out of the shower head. I screamed as it slowly burned my face and body. My mother pulled me out quickly and dried me off with a towel. The white towel turned red as she wiped away the blood all over my body. A week later, I went back into the bathroom to brush my teeth. The light bulb overhead began to flicker, and in a few seconds the entire room was dark. I saw a man staring back at me through the mirror in the dark, dimmed room, smiling. He looked pale and skinny, as if he hadn't eaten in days. Right as I was about to say something, the lights turned back on, and I was just going to say that I was seeing things until a bloody handprint appeared on the mirror. I ran out of the bathroom and back into my bedroom. It was the last weekend before school started. I laid in my bed and must have snoozed off for a good few minutes to a half an hour when my closet doors suddenly opened. A pale and skinny woman, much like the man I had just seen, started charging me and began to strangle me. Her cold grip tightened as she accused me of killing her husband. That's when my mom barged in and with an axe in hand swung it at the woman. The woman's head came completely off and landed on my lap. I screamed in absolute fear as my mom told me to hush. "It's time I showed you something," I remember her saying. She took my hand and escorted me into my closet. She led me through a narrow tunnel that connected to every room in the house, behind the walls. My memory on everything I saw is still fuzzy. Maybe I chose to forget how horrifying the sights were. I do remember, however, following my mother into the basement. Not our primary basement, but another hidden one that I had never seen before. Her exact words I rather not repeat. Just know that she was very disappointed in me and that I should have just kept quiet like a good boy and not asked about the secrets. I don't know why, if there is a why. She began to bite into my neck, then my shoulder. Then her teeth trailed down my arm, ripping away as much flesh as she could hold in her mouth. I cried and pleaded with her, but she wouldn't listen. In a movie, in this exact moment, someone would burst through the door at the last second to save me. Maybe a cop, maybe a relative, a friend. The only reason I live to tell my stories because for whatever reason, in that twisted psychotic mind my mother had, whatever little motherly love and instinct she held onto kicked in. She let go, apologizing in a calm manner. She left me laying on the ground as I could no longer scream and instead gasped for air as I stared at the open wound she gave me. She snatched the phone from the wall and called 911. I know it was 911 because she told whoever answered the phone everything and everybody she had killed, and how I was now lying on the floor on the verge of death, and that if they didn't arrive in 20 minutes, she would put me out of my misery. The cops showed up some 15 minutes later and raided the house. They took my mother into custody and rushed me to the hospital. I didn't get to hear the report on her until I finally got into my 20s. Even with all the details, I still didn't get what was the purpose. Why did she do all of this? The voices in the wall belonged to people she buried inside, using their skin as wallpaper. The blood in my shower came from the bleeding bodies that she used to fix the plumbing. It was hot because my mother thought if she left the water boiling, they would just disintegrate. The mirror was two-way with the inside looking into the restroom. The flickering light was just a standard faulty light bulb. The woman that came out of my closet went nuts after potential weeks of little to no nutrition. She attacked me thinking I was aware and helping my mother. To this day, I still don't know what was going on in my mother's head. The cops can't find any logical explanation for such drastic, violent crimes. I just tell myself that the house was haunted and she was possessed to move on with my life. It's the only thing I can really do. I found a hidden door in my basement, and I wish I had just never opened it. I've lived in my house for 5 years. It's an old place, built in the early 1900s, with all the charms and creaks you'd expect from a century-old home. The basement has always freaked me out a bit. It's cold, damp, and smells faintly of mildew. But I never paid it much attention beyond the occasional trip to store boxes. I was moving some old furniture when I noticed a draft. At first, I thought it was just the basement being drafty as usual, but then I realized it was coming from behind one of the shelves. The air was colder, almost icy. Curious, I pulled the shelf away from the wall, and that's when I saw it. A small, wooden door, barely taller than a crawlspace hatch, covered in peeling paint. I stared at it for a long time. It wasn't on the house inspection report when I bought the place, and I had never noticed it before. It had no handle, just a keyhole. I should have stopped there. I should have walked away, but I didn't. Instead, I grabbed my toolbox, picked the lock, thank you YouTube tutorials, and swung the door wide open. Behind it was a narrow stone staircase, spiraling down into darkness. The air that rushed out smelled wrong. Damp, metallic, and faintly sweet, like rotting fruit. Against every ounce of better judgment, I grabbed a flashlight and started descending. The steps felt endless. The further I went, the more the walls seemed to close in. When I finally reached the bottom, I found myself in a small, circular chamber made of smooth stone. In the center was a well. It looked ancient, the edges worn smooth as if by centuries of use. Here's where it gets weird. As I shined my flashlight around, I noticed something scratched into the walls. Words. Do not look down. I backed away from the wall, heart pounding, but then I heard a soft, wet sound like something shifting into the water. My flashlight flickered, and in the brief darkness, I swear I heard a whisper. Help me. I should have run, but something about the voice didn't feel threatening. It felt desperate for help. Against my own better judgment, I leaned over the well and aimed my flashlight down. The beam barely reached the water. It was black and still, reflecting nothing, but as I stared, the surface began to ripple. Slowly, something started to rise. At first, I thought it was a person, a head, pale and smooth, breaking the surface. But then I saw the eyes, round, lidless, and too large for its own face. Its mouth was wide, filled with needle-like teeth, and it was smiling. The whisper came again, louder this time. Help me. I don't remember running back up the stairs. I don't remember sealing the door or pushing the shelf back in place. But I must have, because when I came to, I was sitting on my kitchen floor, shaking, with the basement door locked tight. Since then, I've heard noises at night, soft scratching, like something trying to find its way out. Last night, I found muddy footprints leading from the basement door to my bed. I haven't been back down there. I don't think I ever will. But the scratches are getting louder. And I can't help but notice they're starting to sound like words. Help me. Let me explain one thing first. My sister died 3 years ago. It was a car accident. Sudden, brutal, no goodbyes. 1 minute we were arguing over cereal at breakfast, and by dinner, she was gone. 17 years old. Her bedroom is still upstairs, untouched, just how she left it. My mom couldn't bring herself to pack anything up. Eventually, she just locked the door and put the key in a box and shoved it in the attic. None of us have been in a room since the funeral. We don't even go upstairs much, to be honest. My parents moved their bedroom to the main floor, and I mostly hang out in the basement. We pretend like the second floor doesn't even exist. I used to hate that. It felt like we were avoiding her, like she'd become a ghost before she even had a chance to haunt us. but now I'm starting to think she actually might have. This started 2 weeks ago. I came home from work late. It was raining, dark, just gross outside. I dumped my stuff by the stairs and headed to the basement. As I passed the staircase leading up, I swore I heard a creak from upstairs. I froze and just listened. Another creak, like weight shifting on old wooden floorboards. I stared up the stairs for what must have been a full minute, heart racing. Then I laughed at myself. The house settles. It's old. Wood moves. You know how it is. I went downstairs and didn't think much of it after that. Until it kept happening. Every single night. Always around 11:30 p.m. Always just as I'm about to go to sleep. Creaks upstairs. Soft footsteps. Once I even heard the sound of something rolling, like her old desk chair. Then came the craziest part. 3 nights ago, I heard her voice. I was half asleep when I heard it. Faint, muffled, but so familiar it snapped me fully awake. She said my name. Just once, like a question. Liam? My name isn't super common. And the voice wasn't some random noise. It was her, like perfectly her. The tone, the softness, everything. I didn't sleep at all that night. The next morning, I went upstairs for the first time in years. The hallway felt wrong, cold in a way that wasn't temperature, just cold and silent. And at the end of it was her door, locked like always. But something new was different. There were scratches on the wood, around the doorknob. I asked my mom about it, and she just got really pale and whispered, "Don't talk about that room." So last night, I did something stupid. I went into the attic and found the box. The key was still there. My hands were shaking as I took it downstairs. I stood outside her door for 10 minutes before I could even make myself breathe normally. At exactly 11:30 p.m., I heard it again. My name. Liam? But this time, the voice wasn't muffled. It was right behind the door. I panicked, dropped the key, backed down the hallway, and nearly fell down the stairs. The voice didn't follow. Today, I checked the hallway again. Just one new thing had changed. There was a note under the door, folded, plain white paper, reading, "It's not me." And now, I don't know what's behind that door anymore, but it's not my sister.